Hello there, welcome to Encore on France 24 with me, Catherine Nicholson. Today we're getting a musical journey and a trip back in time to London of the swinging 60s with the latest novel from Eva Rice. We'll be meeting the author herself in just a moment. We'll also be finding out how French lawmakers are taking on the likes of Amazon in a bid to protect traditional bookshops. And Delibes' orientalist opera Lakmé is returning to the theatre where it had its premiere 130 years ago, Paris's Opéra Comique. But first, let's meet our guest. Welcome to the show, Eva Rice.
Thank you. Hello.
Very nice to have you with us. I'm going to introduce you properly to our viewers. Eva is here as she's launching her fourth novel in its French translation. The Misinterpretation of Tara Jupp is the story of a young country girl who becomes a singing star in London in the swinging 60s. It follows her best-selling third novel, The Lost Art of Keeping Secrets, meeting some of the same characters along the way. So, Eva, thanks once again for being with us. Now, this is a story of love, friendship, sisters, singing. It is also your longest novel to date.
Yes.
How would you sum it up? Although, obviously, that's not easy.
It's a coming-of-age story, so you're following Tara, who's 17. But at the same time, I think it's a story you could read at any age because it's about a certain period in time that lots of people will relate to, the early 60s, just before the Beatles became big, just before the Rolling Stones broke through. I like writing about times just before something culture-changing happened.
So in our minds, we all know what's about to happen.
Exactly.
But the people in the book
reader
don't.
knows. The reader knows, but the characters don't know.
And did you have to do a lot of research into all the 1960s period detail? Because, of course, there are a lot of your readers who will have lived through that time.
Absolutely, and they pick you up on things if you get them wrong. And that happened a couple of times in my last book set in the 50s. I had people writing in and picking up on the tiniest details. And there's always something that slightly slips through the net, but I've really had to be careful with this to make sure that I'm not referring to things that simply didn't exist in that time.
Yeah.
In the 50s, I was writing at one point about people wearing tights, and my grandmother read the book and said, no one would have worn tights then.
Oh, wow.
So it's just tiny things like that you kind of get wrong and have to make sure are corrected. Yeah, I get a few people to read through.
Proves that your family are paying attention, though, which is always good.
That's always good.
And the story, it starts in Cornwall, which is the extreme southwest of England, very wild. Moves on to swinging London, like you said. It's a very English book. How do you feel about launching such an English novel here in France?
Well, I mean, it's interesting to launch it here because it's sold well over here, which is in some ways surprising to me because it's incredibly English. But then I think, particularly with that time in the 60s, people have a kind of nostalgia for that time in England, whether or not you're actually English. So I'm so pleased that people have liked it over here and that it's doing well.
And were you inspired much by aspects of your own life? Because looking at your biography, the southwest of England comes into it, singing, lots of other things. Did you pick out from your own life story?
I did, because I've always sung and I've always done music in one form or another, although I made my character fantastically musically talented, which I'm, not as good as her. That's the fun thing about writing. You can make everyone a better version of yourself.
Must be fun. Now, we have to mention, as we're talking about singing, you come from a very artistic family, notably your father, Tim Rice, who we all know, of course, the lyrics for his musicals. We grew up with them, Joseph, Evita, that kind of thing. How much have you been influenced by his career?
Very much so, because I was always surrounded by words, because that's his trade was words. And so, he might be listening to a pop song on the radio and he would say something like, that's not a true rhyme or something like that, and that kind of thing sticks in your head when you're 5 or 6. So even now, if I'm writing something, I'll think, "Ooh, that doesn't quite rhyme. It's not exactly right." Or, but I think it's in the same way that if your dad was a builder, then you'd notice how well built your house was. I think it's just a natural thing. Yeah,
it sort of rubs off. And
Absolutely.
Is it true that your mum and dad named you after Eva Perón from Evita? Which
my dad was working on Evita at the time when I was born, and I always get asked that question. But my name is Eva, and she was Ava. But I get called Ava the whole time because obviously everyone assumes that. So I kind of answer to either or either.
so to speak.
Yeah.
Perhaps a little pressure to be spectacular as well. Eva Peron was such a exciting character,
yes.
wasn't she?
I mean, I don't think I'm much like her character.
You wonder what your dad had in mind for you, don't you?
Well, you never know, exactly. Ruling a country is always an option.
Always an option if you move on from the writing and the singing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's just show something nice to our viewers. To accompany the launch of the book here in France, you had a sort of a musical and book reading night here in Paris. We're going to show you at home. This is Eva singing the big hit song that features in the book. Take a look.
May to September we were fine. May to September, oh how I wish he was mine. I loved him through the summer and more, and now we're getting married by the Malibu shore. December looks so pretty by the Malibu shore.
There we go. So that's Eva performing one of the songs from the book there with your husband, which is very nice.
his
Bit of a family affair.
Yeah.
Now, you have also recorded lots of music in the past, released it under the name Amanda Applewood. Now, I've read that you're planning to write your own musical based on a Jilly Cooper novel. Is that true?
Yes, that is true. It's kind of in early stages, but it's very exciting. Luckily, I won't be having to sing on that one. We'll get some great singers in to do recordings for that, and hopefully it'll be happening in the next 18 months or so.
And can I ask which novel?
It's one called Harriet.
Okay, so lots
One
of
of her
raunchy-
early 70s romances.
Very interesting. Now, just back to the fact that your novels are set back in the 60s, 50s, that kind of thing. Do you think that you could set them in the contemporary world with, Facebook, Twitter, emails? It kind of takes the tension away, doesn't it?
That's one of the reasons why I didn't like writing in present day, because if my characters had the use of Twitter and Facebook, you'd kind of get rid of a lot of the plot.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the longing and the yearning and the wondering where someone is and the impossibility of tracking them down is part of the romance and the appeal. So I guess if you could walk into a room and tweet someone and then you'd find out where they were, it's a difficult thing to sustain a romantic plot when you've got all that going on.
Absolutely, and writing love letters is a completely different thing, isn't
Yeah.
it? Well, we'll talk briefly now about one very contemporary issue for authors that's linked to all of this new technology that we're surrounded by. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts about this. France is set to limit online booksellers when it comes to offering rock-bottom prices, free delivery deals, that kind of thing. Senators here in Paris have started the ball rolling on a new law that could see companies like Amazon forced to follow national price limiting rules. Normally, prices here are strictly controlled with the aim that booksellers stay in business. Luke Brown tells us now how France is fighting the good fight for the bookworms.
France's cultural exception strikes back once more. A bill passed unanimously by the Senate this week is set to be cause for celebration for independent bookstores. Lawmakers have to vote on a final version later this year, but the current bill bars online retailers like Amazon from offering reductions over 5% on top of free postal delivery. For Culture Minister Aurélie Filippetti, it's a means of protecting France's cherished network of booksellers.
This is a small element in our plan to help booksellers, but it's an important one. We know Amazon has used free delivery combined with price reductions as a tool to conquer the French market.
Indeed, the bill is part of a package of measures worth €11 million to shore up the sector. Independent retailers have long complained that Amazon's size allows it to offer customers unfair discounts on top of free delivery.
I think we should stop rolling out the red carpet for Amazon. Amazon's ruining the market. I think we should allow other retailers, like independent booksellers, to be heard.
Amazon, though, sees things differently, insisting restricting the deals it can offer will be bad for the pocket of French shoppers.
If this bill passes, it will have a minor impact on Amazon, but it will penalise consumers and threaten cultural diversity in France.
The proposed legislation is just the latest move by the government to protect French culture. Back in 1981, Culture Minister Jack Lang implemented a law that means all sellers, big and small, have to offer almost the same price with reductions no greater than 5%. That contrasts with the situation in the United Kingdom, for example, where fixed prices were abolished in the 1990s. The result, there are about 2,500 independent bookstores across France, over 2.5 times as many as in the UK.
Okay, well, Eva, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, probably, for an author to talk about this, because you can probably sell a lot more books through online retailers.
Yeah.
But booksellers going out of business isn't necessarily a good thing either. Where do you stand?
I think is exactly right. It is a double-edged sword, and nothing can beat going into your local bookshop and spending a few hours there, if you possibly can, in the physical company of the books.
That immersive experience.
Exactly,
yeah.
and being able to ask someone in the shop and everything about them. But then, you know, if you're unable to get into the shop or you desperately need something, you know, by the next day that you can't get to the shop, then obviously you'll reach for the keypad.
We're so used to it now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Last-minute Christmas presents.
Exactly.
I indulged in that a little bit last year, I
Yeah,
have to say.
yeah.
And elsewhere, speaking about new technology, do you find you have a different relationship with your readers thanks to it? Because before it would have been sort of book readings in a shop, but now you can contact people on Twitter and things. Is that an improvement?
That side of it's actually quite fun because you get people contacting you with questions that, you know, maybe they wouldn't have got in touch with you before, or they can just ask a quick one-liner and you can respond. And sometimes I ask them questions about my characters or things like that. So,
or those period details you were mentioning?
yeah, exactly. It's a useful tool, but at the same time, I think, you know, I don't know, it's so difficult to say, but I don't think people should be getting completely obsessed and immersed by it, because where's reality in that?
Absolutely. Well, this production gives us a very colourful depiction of a love story in colonial India, and it has got fans flocking to the Opéra Comique to see it. So if you have time while you're here in Paris, I recommend you go and see it.
Thank you, I will. Thanks.
Looks like a great show. Thanks very much for being with us here on the show.
No problem, thank you.
And thanks to you at home for watching as well. We are going to leave you with a little excerpt of Lakmé. Do remember you can keep in touch with us via our social networks and with me on Twitter at @acatinparis. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.